Welcome, all my fellow Washington brethren and sister. I am your man and resident Washington football team fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on the Washington Football Report, an exclusive Washington Football Report, as we continue our limited series, positional rankings around the league and in the NFC East. We've knocked down the entire offensive side of the football, and we've knocked down the front seven. Now let's get to the back half of the defense and into the secondary, starting with the cornerbacks. So I want to talk about where Washington ranks within the NFC East, and then we'll talk about where they rank in the league. Now, I want to do this one a little bit different. Normally, when I break down where the division ranks are, I go from bottom to top. I want to do it in reverse this time. So let's take a look at where everyone ranks in the division. We start with the New York Giants, who I have ranked as the second best team in the division at the cornerback position. Now, here's my rationale as to how I look at corners, how I grade, and how I come up with the rankings that I do. So you look for a star corner first. Do you have a star? Do you have a guy that gives you consistency week in and week out that you know you can rely on? Not necessarily a guy that's a star corner that's going to travel, but a guy that you know you can count on week in and week out to give you high quality production. And if that guy can be a star corner that can travel, all the better. The Giants checked that box with James Bradberry. He came on the scene last year as a free agent and was everything and then some that they invested in him. And so he checks off that box. The next box I'm looking for is, okay, you got the star corner, you got the big time corner, the consistency you're looking for. Do you now have depth around that corner? Quality veteran starters that can help supplement that star corner. The Giants also check that box. You can look down the list of corners here. You see that they have Adoree Jackson and then Logan Ryan, who both of those guys are listed as DBs. But in Adoree Jackson's case, he's nobody's safety. Okay, I don't think the Giants are going to play him at safety. I think he's a cornerback. Logan Ryan showed last year that he can play safety, and they did play him at safety oftentimes, but he also can play in the slot. He is one of the better nickel corners in football. So you get a little bit of both with Logan Ryan. So those guys check off the veteran box, the depth, if you will. And then the last thing is, do you have young players with upside that potentially, 1 or 2 years down the road could be guys that you are now leaning on as key contributors? The Giants check that box as well. They've got Sam Beal, a guy that they spent a supplemental draft pick on a couple of years ago. Darnay Holmes is a guy they took in the 3rd round out of UCLA a couple of years ago. Darius Williams they took in the 6th or 7th round this year. These are all young guys that they think have some talent and may be able to give them something moving forward. Isaac Yiadom is a guy that was drafted by the Denver Broncos, I believe, 2-3 years ago. They gave up on him. They're going to give him a chance in New York. So there are options here. They check off all the boxes. I like the Giants' makeup in the secondary, especially at the cornerback position. That's why they are the second best corners in the division. You get to number 3 in the division, and it's the Philadelphia Eagles. So going back to that criteria, do you have a star corner, a guy you can count on, a guy that is consistent, a guy that you may be able to use on the other team's best receiver? The Eagles check that box with Darius Slay. So they do have that guy. Now, Slay is getting up there in age. He's 30 years old, but still, he's Darius Slay. You're going to give him his respect. You know he's capable of making plays. So Darius Slay checks off that box for the Eagles. Does he have any running mates? Does he have veterans in that locker room, in that room itself, that can help him at the cornerback position? That's where the Eagles go off the rails a bit. There isn't another guy in this room that you look at and say, okay, know that this is a consistent veteran that's been in this league, that's done this, and I can rely on this guy. I mean, you could look at Avonte Maddox. Good luck with that. I'm not the biggest Avonte Maddox fan. So the rest of these guys, they're unknown commodities, okay? There are a lot of young guys in this room for the Eagles, but there are unknown commodities. You don't know what you're getting out of these players. And then lastly, do they have guys with upside? Sure, any of these guys could have upside. They're all young. They're all untested, all unproven in this league. Who knows what they're going to be? But as of right now, none of these guys move the needle other than Darius Slay. And you could throw in Avonte Maddox if you so choose. But the Eagles are very young in the secondary, and I think they're going to be exploited in that secondary if their front seven, specifically their defensive line, doesn't wreak havoc. I think this secondary could be in a lot of trouble. So they're the third rated cornerback group in the division, which leaves us with the Dallas Cowboys, who bring up the rear. Why are they last in this division? Before we get into that, because I think you know why they're last, I want you to take a look at what the Cowboys are doing here. And I talked about this during the draft because you could see them doing this as it was happening. I just find this very fascinating, the route that they're taking. Look at the Dallas Cowboys corners. What is the common thread here? What is the common denominator you see with their cornerbacks? I'll give you a second to kind of gloss over the list and see if you can pull out and extract that information where I'm trying to go with this. The Cowboys are going big at the cornerback position, and that's an understatement. Look at some of the sizes on these corners. There are only two corners. What do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 corners here. Now, obviously, they're not going to carry 11 corners on their roster, but of the 11 corners, 9 of them are 6'1" or taller. Think about that for a second. You know how hard that is to compile and amass that many corners that are 6'1" or taller on your football team? Now, look at the guys that are 6'2" and 6'3" and 6'4". They've got a bevy of those. Of the 9 players that are 6'1" or taller, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them are 6'2" or taller. So they're looking for big, long, rangy corners that can run. Only 1 or 2 of these guys aren't, you know, speed guys as well. Israel Mukuamu is not a guy that can run, but he has tremendous ball skills and length. So you see what the Cowboys are trying to do. Nashon Wright, the guy that they drafted that surprised a lot of people in the 3rd round, 6'4", 185. Guy can fly. Got height, weight, speed, checks off all the boxes. Can he play ball? We'll find out. But the reason the Cowboys are in last is because there's not a star in this mix. They don't have a guy that you say, okay, hey, sick him, okay? Slow that guy down today and let us worry about the rest of their offense. They don't have that guy. Every other team in the division has a guy that they look at and they say, hey, sick that receiver and we'll worry about the other guys. They don't have that. They think Trayvon Diggs may be that for them moving forward, but he's a second-year player that had his bumps last year. He took his lumps like a man last year. He was roasted and toasted at times, and there were times where he played like a guy that has the potential to be a big-time corner in this league. We'll see what the sophomore year of Trayvon Diggs looks like, but they don't have a star here, right? Then you go to depth. Okay, do they have guys that are veterans that you can trust in his... Are you excited about Anthony Brown? Do you love Jordan Lewis? Because I don't love either one of those guys. Those would be your only 2 players here that you would consider to be veterans that have a little bit of NFL experience under their belt. As you can see, most of these guys are young. They don't have a corner here that's 30 years old, which is a good thing. You want young guys, but at the same time, they don't have any proven, tested guys. They got a bunch of young players. It's the blind leading the blind, essentially. That's why the Cowboys were roasted and toasted last year, and that's why, more likely than not, if they don't get pressure on the quarterback, and quarterbacks and receivers have time to let routes develop, they're going to get roasted and toasted again in that secondary. It's going to be tough sledding. They're going to play a lot of zone. I can tell you that. With these corners, that length, and the size that they have, they're going to play a lot of zone, which is what their defensive coordinator is all about anyhow. So a lot of cover 3 coming, and these are the kinds of guys you play cover 3 with. Long, rangy corners. This smells like Seattle Seahawks all over again, and those are the kinds of guys you do that with. Just so you know, that's what you're going to see from the Dallas Cowboys in 2021 and probably moving forward with their new defensive philosophy. So that's what the teams in the division look like. But obviously, if the Giants were second, the Eagles were third, and the Cowboys were fourth, that means I have Washington as the number one cornerback room in the division. And honestly, William Jackson the third is the catalyst for all of that. I thought that this was a good room last year with what we had, but we didn't know what Ronald Darby was going to be. He turned out to be really good, probably our most consistent corner last season. He left in free agency, and we actually upgraded him with William Jackson III, and that allows us to check all the boxes that I just mentioned. Do you have a star corner? Yeah, we feel like we do in William Jackson III. Do you have depth surrounding that corner? Sure. You've got Kendall Fuller. You've got Jimmy Moreland. You've got some other guys that you signed in free agency, including Bobby McCain, that's going to come in and play some nickel for you. You've got Roberts, who you signed in free agency to come over, potentially play some nickel for you as well. So there are depth guys around your star corner. Do you have young and up-and-coming corners? You've got one in particular in St. Juice, or as we like to call him, Juice. So they check every single box. They've got everything you're looking for. They've got size. They've got speed. They've got ball production. They've got all the guys you're looking for. I just think the room is complete in Washington. They have everything you're looking for, a great blend and mix of star, veterans, and a young and up-and-coming corner that you really are excited about. So they check all the boxes. They got all the guys you're looking for. It's the best group, the best semblance of talent. And so I think Washington is the number one cornerback group in the NFC East. Now, where do they rank in the league? You may be surprised at where they're ranked, but going through the list of teams and their corners and looking at their starters, and I've kind of given you my mentality on what I look at the cornerback position as and how I kind of grade. So going through the list, Washington is actually 8th in the league at the cornerback position, if you can believe that. We'll go through every team quickly. I'll give you my rationale as to if I feel like it's necessary. We'll go through each team, and I'll tell you which ones ranked higher than Washington. So Arizona Cardinals, we're better than them. They lost Patrick Peterson in the offseason. They got some young corners, but they don't have what we have. They don't have a star corner now, and they don't have what we have. Atlanta Falcons, they got young guys, guys that they believe in. Isaiah Oliver, they drafted not C.J. Henderson. They drafted A.J. Terrell last year, but these are all young corners. They're still trying to figure figure their things out, figure the NFL out. They're not better than us. They don't have a star corner anyway. Baltimore Ravens, they may have the best tandem in the league. I don't think that is the case, but you could argue that point. I know the NFL did a ranking, and they said the Ravens had the best tandem in the league with Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters. I think there's a better tandem in the league than that, but the fact that they have that tandem and there's a discussion there to be had, they're out in front of us, and they've got depth. Jimmy Smith, they go about 5 or 6 deep at the cornerback position. Ravens have us beat. Buffalo Bills, they have a star corner in Tre'Davious White, and they've got a number of guys around them. I don't necessarily love all of their guys. I thought it was really close. I was splitting hairs. You could easily put us ahead of them, but I think they've got enough. We've got Teron Johnson, and they've got some other guys that, Levi Wallace, that are really solid around him. And so I think that Trayvon, I think that Tre'Davious White is better than William Jackson III, and because of that, they get the nod. He's really good, Tre'Davious White is. So then you go to the Panthers. No. You go to the Bears. No. You go to the Bengals. No. You go to the Browns. No. You go to the Cowboys. We already talked about that. No. You go to the Broncos. Yes. The Broncos are better than us. They go 3 deep with guys that are exceptional. They were already fine. They took Ronald Darby from us in free agency. So I thought they were good just with that, with Ronald Darby on one side. And they had another corner, his name is escaping me at the moment, on the other side. And I said they're good with that, And I think they had a young corner like Jamudia on the other side. And I said they're probably going to be good with that. But then they doubled down. They drafted the Alabama corner, Patrick Surtain, the second. And then they ended up signing Kyle Fuller in free agency after he was surprisingly released by the Bears. They're loaded at corner now, so they get the nod over us. Lions, no. Packers, they were interesting because of Jair Alexander. He's better than William Jackson III, but I don't think the rest of their room is better than the rest of our room. I don't love Kevin King, and so if you wanted to throw Kevin King in that discussion, fine, go right ahead. I think we still get the nod after that, so I have us ahead of the Packers, but Jair Alexander is outstanding. Houston Texans, no. Indianapolis Colts were really, really close. They were almost like a splitting image of us because they have the star corner, even though he's getting up there in age and, you know, he had a little rough patch. Xavier Rhodes was excellent for them last year. He's back. So he acts as their William Jackson, even though I think William Jackson is better than him. So then they have Rock Ya-Sin outside. You could argue that's their Kendall Fuller. Then they have Kenny Moore, who I am probably the biggest Kenny Moore fan you can think of that's not an Indianapolis Colts fan. Kenny Moore is effing awesome. We don't have a Kenny Moore on our team. So that made me want to lean towards Indy. But after that, I think our depth is greater than their depth. And so I gave us the nod because of the depth after that. But it was close. So we got the nod over Indy. We're better than Jacksonville. We're better than Kansas City. We're better than the Chargers. The Rams, they got Jalen Ramsey. And I love Darius Williams probably more than most people do. So Jalen Ramsey by himself, probably end the discussion, drop the mic. But then throw in Darius Williams, you got me. Hands up. So Jacksonville has us beaten. Or excuse me, not Jacksonville. The Rams have us beaten. The Raiders, they were interesting. They've got an interesting mix of corners, but they're not better than us. Dolphins, they are in quite the quandary right now because they pissed off one of their corners, their best corner, in Xavier Howard. But with Byron Jones and Howard, with Noah Igbenogany, and all the guys that they have at the cornerback position, they're loaded at corner, but they may have to trade Xavier Howard. He wants out. He requested a trade, so we'll see how that goes. But right now, they're ahead of us as well. The Minnesota Vikings, they're interesting. They got a bunch of young players. They added Patrick Peterson, which gives them a boost, but they're not better than us. And New England Patriots, they have Stephon Gilmore, and they got J.C. Jackson, who I absolutely love. He's an interception machine. And then they got another guy. They got stuff. They're good. They're better than us. But then after the Patriots, Saints, no, even though you know how I feel about their number one corner, Marshawn Lattimore. But after Lattimore, they got nothing, really. But no, for the Saints, no for the Giants, we talked about them already. No for the Jets, no for the Eagles, we talked about them already. No for the Steelers, no for the 49ers, no for the Seahawks. Then you get to the Bucks. And I went back and forth. I think we might actually be better than them, but man, do they have some young corners, man. And man, do those guys play some ball. I wanted to give us the nod, but I couldn't. They got some young corners, and they play some ball, man. And they go 3 deep with those young corners. I couldn't put us over them. So they got the nod, and then the Tennessee Titans. No. So that's how we got to 8th in the league. I actually was surprised. I didn't think we would be that high, but there we are, top 10 with the corners. I told you what we are on the defensive line. With those 2 positions defensively, where they are, if they perform where I have them slotted, we should be pretty damn good on defense. So that leaves us with 1 position left, safety, and that's an interesting one. We'll talk about that one on the final installment of this limited series, positional rankings for the Washington football team. Remember, I am a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to the beloved Washington football team. Get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section stating whether you agree with me, you disagree with me, where did I get it right, where did I get it wrong, where do you think this cornerback group ranks, and how do you think they're going to fare this year? Talk to me about all those things down in the comment section. Also, make sure you leave a like, as that helps this channel grow greatly, and a sub, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already done those things. Until next time, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. See you guys for the final installment of Positional Rankings. See you next time.
LouieTeeNetwork.